When I learned the truth that I was the vicious villain, I was lying in bed, aching all over, listening to the big shots preaching. I'll give you a sum of money, and then act as if today's incident never happened. Understand? I turned my head and looked at the man beside the bed, who was nearly 1.9 meters tall, handsome but with cold eyes and eyebrows. Undoubtedly, this was a perfect alpha who was enough to make people scream and be infatuated. However, what came to my mind was the man sitting in a luxury car, lowering half of the window and slightly opening his thin lips. Throw him out. And the unlucky guy who was gagged and thrown into the sea was me. I shivered and felt desolate in my heart. If I didn't want to follow the plot, I couldn't ask the big shot to keep me. But if I couldn't get the big shot's protection, I would be torn to pieces by those jackals and leopards in my family. Really, I was doomed no matter what. I wrapped the bathrobe around me and let my mind wander. Seeing that I didn't reply, the big shot frowned. What? Do you think it's not enough? You should know that if you hadn't resorted to tricks, an inferior omega like you wouldn't even be qualified to be in my bed. Take the money and get out. Don't expect what you don't deserve. I came back to my senses. Listening to the big shot's warning, I felt even more miserable. Then I rolled away. Literally rolled away. I rolled from one end of the bed to the other. Then I climbed onto the window and struggled to pull it open. The safety measures in this high-class hotel are really good. I exerted all my strength to pull it open just a tiny crack. The big shot stood there with a deeply furrowed brow. What are you doing? Oh, I'm going to die. Huh. Having managed to stick one foot out, I turned back to look at the big shot and kindly reminded him, why don't you record a video with your phone? This way, you can prove that you're not responsible for the accident. Don't be so childish. I won't compromise with you even if you threaten to die. Oh, I still kept pushing the window stubbornly. The big shot lost his patience and walked out. Do whatever you want. It'll even save me some money. Finally, the window opened halfway. I turned sideways and squeezed out. Half of my body was already out. Liberation was just in front of me. However, the next second, I was pulled back by an irresistible force. Do you really want to die? I was thrown onto the bed behind me, feeling dizzy. The big shot, who had come back, gasped and looked at me, impatiently sighing twice. Oh, I got it. After all, this was the big shot's territory. Dying here would indeed have a bad impact on him. So I tightened my bathrobe and put on my slippers. Don't worry, I'll go outside to die. I won't implicate you. After saying that, I walked out with my slippers slapping on the ground. The big shot looked at me suspiciously and didn't stop me again. I walked in front and the big shot followed behind. It wasn't until I walked out of the hotel and headed straight for the road without stopping that the big shot stepped forward to stop me again. What on earth do you want? A title? Money? We can talk about it. Stop being so unreasonable. I looked at him gratefully, thinking that the big shot was really nice. He was still so kind even after being framed. I patted his hand and sincerely thanked him. Thank you, but I just want to die now. Stay away. Don't let people misunderstand. The big shot had a very complicated expression and didn't say a word. It seemed as if he was repeatedly testing something. How about I record a video for you first to prove that I'm going to die voluntarily? So I left him behind and continued walking forward. The next second, everything spun around me, and I was slung over someone's shoulder. After being dazed for a while, I was placed in a luxury car by the big shot. Lock all the doors. The big shot got into the car from the other side and instructed the driver. I awkwardly put down my hands that had been fumbling around looking for the door handle, not knowing what the big shot wanted to do. However, before I could think more, in the silent car, I soon fell asleep. When I woke up again, the car had stopped in front of a mansion. The big shot opened the car door for me. Get out of the car. Where's this? My home. Home? It was clearly like a big garden here. Could it be that the big shot is the legendary garden baby? Great, I want to die even more. Why did I have to live in a basement for the first 20-odd years of my life? And it was the kind that leaked water in summer and let in snow in winter. I followed the big shot closely behind. Sometimes I thought this tree would be good for hanging myself, and sometimes I wondered if that flower was poisonous. When I saw that the big shot's house also had an artificial pond, my eyes lit up. Drowning is great. No tools are needed. Just jump in. Involuntarily, my steps turned towards the pond. But soon, the big shot grabbed me by the collar, his tone quite gritted. Teeth. Where are you going? Well, I'm going to measure the depth of your pond on the spot. You either try to kill yourself in my hotel or at my place. Do I owe you something? Sorry. Then I'll go out. Shut up. The big shot growled, which made me shiver. I obediently closed my mouth. I just want to die on my own, but I'm still being stopped everywhere. I got really angry in my heart. In the end, between being angry and being submissive, I chose to be submissive and hold in my anger. Come over and sit down. The big shot sat down on the sofa tiredly, and I chose to sit on the edge of the sofa. A middle-aged man in the appearance of a butler walked over. He was a little surprised when he saw me and then put on a standard smile. I've never seen Andrew bring an Omega back. You're the first. May I ask who you are? It was the first time I heard such a straightforward classic line from an old-fashioned novel. I couldn't help but sigh about the quality of this book. I stood up in a hurry and introduced myself. My name is Oliver. You can just call me Oliver. Oh? Are you from the Shin family of Yueshing? Well, yes. I scratched my head awkwardly, not knowing how to describe my identity. One of the unfavored illegitimate children? The lowest quality Omega in the family? Any of these identities is embarrassing to mention. I drooped my head dejectedly and glanced at the fruit knife on the table. Sure enough, it's better for a little trash like me to die. Noticing where my gaze was focused, the big shot suddenly sat up straight. Come on, are you doing a household registration check? Why do you have to ask so clearly? Clean up the table. Take away all these knives and plates. The butler closed his just open mouth and went to clear the things away. And I sat down awkwardly again. The big shot sized me up and asked with an unnatural look on his face, does it still hurt? Yes, it hurts so much that I want to die. Before I could finish speaking, the big shot directly reached out and pinched my mouth. The veins on his forehead were bulging. Don't let me hear that word again. I nodded to indicate that I understood. The big shot let go of his hand and leaned back on the sofa again. I gently rubbed my lips that had been pinched, feeling they were all red. Oh no, I'm so aggrieved. I even want to die more. Holding back my tears and picking at my fingers, I let the big shot look me over again and again. After a long while, the big shot sighed as if in compromise, go upstairs to take a bath and change your clothes. You can live here from now on. But the condition is that you're not allowed to seek death at every turn. You can mention other needs to that butler just now and I'll try my best to meet them. I don't want to live here. I just want to. What did you say? I said, okay. It was that damned subconscious reaction. I paced reluctantly and followed the butler upstairs. When soaking in the bathtub, I rarely felt a bit of warmth in the world. The drowsiness I had in the car just now welled up again, and my consciousness gradually blurred in the comfortable room. Hey, Oliver, wake up. When I was shaken awake by a strong jolt, the big shot was squatting beside the bathtub, desperately pressing on my philtrum. Why did you? Didn't we agree that you can't seek death at every turn? The big shot was full of anger and his hoarse voice was terrifying. I didn't. The big shot didn't listen to my explanation at all. He picked me up from the bathtub in a princess carry. I understand that he doesn't want me to die in his house and cause trouble for him. But I'm just taking a bath now, a bath where I'm completely naked. I panicked and covered myself everywhere, feeling my face was about to burst with shyness. The big shot threw me on the bed and wrapped me in the quilt. What are you covering? What part of you haven't I seen? It's true what he said. But what should I do if I'm even more shy? I silently turned over and buried my face in the pillow, trying to calm down. But the big shot seemed to misunderstand something and forcefully turned me back to face him. Don't try to suffocate yourself. I didn't. The big shot raised an eyebrow, obviously not believing me. I behaved myself and closed my mouth. After the bathtub incident, the big shot never left me for a single step. Two people have to sit in the same office at work. We have to sleep face to face in each other's arms. We even have to take a bath together. If the big shot were an Omega like me or an Alpha who likes AB or AA relationships, I would agree. But the key is that we two have a temporary mark on each other, and we seem to be a very compatible AO pair. So I very tactfully refused the big shot. No, I'm afraid you'll give in to your animal instincts. The big shot was very straightforward. I just don't want you to die in my house. And don't worry, I won't take a fancy to you when I'm sober. In the end, we still took a bath together. Not for any other reason. It's just that he's 1.9 meters tall while I'm just barely 1.8 meters. In short, I can't beat him. In the warm and humid bathroom, there was rising steam and the irresistible spreading fragrance of fur. My legs were trembling. I looked at the big shot who only seemed decent on the surface and for the first time didn't use honorifics. Andrew, didn't you say you wouldn't take a fancy to me? The big shot was very honest and apologized as soon as he realized his mistake. Sorry, but he didn't change. The next day, I was lying in bed in despair, in a daze. The well-dressed big shot came over and affectionately kissed the top of my head. What are you thinking about? Thinking about S. My mouth was gently pinched again. Didn't we agree not to say that word anymore? Who agreed with him? I angrily pushed his hand away and very stubbornly turned around and didn't look at him. Andrew leaned over and murmured in my ear, "Will you still go to the company with me today, huh?" My ears turned red and I turned my head away. No. Okay, then can I have a goodbye kiss? Unexpectedly, he didn't force me to go to work with him anymore, but only asked for a goodbye kiss. It wasn't until my lips were swollen from being kissed that after Andrew left in high spirits that I realized it later. Am I being indoctrinated? How could I think it's okay to just give a farewell kiss? After tossing and turning in bed for a few times, I got out of bed to wash up. When I walked downstairs, Andrew had already left, but there were many people I had never seen before busying themselves back and forth. I asked Butler Daniel, "Uncle, what are they doing?" Butler Daniel still seemed to be living in an old-fashioned novel, maintaining a standard fake smile. "Mr. Oliver, these are the protective measures Andrew specially arranged to prevent you from committing." The corners of the tables were covered with protective rubber, all the controlled knives had disappeared, and even the bowls, plates, and cups were replaced with non-breakable materials. Is he treating me like a child to be guarded against? I pouted and planned to go out for a walk to relax. Butler Daniel followed me closely. There were also many people bustling back and forth outside. I even saw a forklift filling the pond with soil. It's going too far, I must say. When Andrew came back at night, I told him about it. You even had someone fill in the pond. You're being too exaggerated. I wanted to say that actually I didn't want to die that much anymore. Because there is more than just despair and difficulties in my life now. Andrew looked at me with a distrustful look in his eyes. Really? Oliver, you should know that your family has spread the news about you and me. They even had the nerve to come to my company today in the name of laws. In the eyes of the public, our relationship is no longer simple. If something suddenly happens to you, especially here at my place, then. The food in my mouth suddenly became hard to swallow. I put down my chopsticks a bit forcefully, interrupting his warning. I understand. I won't be a burden to you, Mr. Andrew. Andrew's hand with the chopsticks clearly paused for a moment. It's good that you understand. The first step to not burden Andrew is to sever ties with him. I made an excuse to go out for a walk and wandered around accompanied by Butler Daniel, until I reached the place of the Shin family. Sure enough, within less than 10 minutes, someone from the Shin family came forward to greet me. It was still my second, elder brother, the one I hated the most. On the surface, he smiled and told someone to stop Butler Daniel, saying that he had some family matters to talk to me, his younger brother. After turning his back, he sneered in my ear, "You're quite capable. You really managed to get in with Andrew, you good for nothing. Good little brother, now that you've made it big, you can't forget about your big brother." I shrugged off his arm on my shoulder and said calmly, "You're overthinking. Andrew doesn't like me. I can't help you with anything." Doesn't like you? Daniel touched my cheek and then suddenly grabbed my earlobe forcefully, as if he wanted to tear it off. I felt a sharp pain in my ear but subconsciously closed my mouth. Then why does a useless piece of trash like you still dare to show up in front of me? He tugged hard at my earlobe and then flung it away as if bestowing a favor. I fell to the ground. My arm that hit the ground first ached terribly. Daniel ground the tip of his shoe against the side of my face. Either you go and make Andrew happy or... He didn't finish his sentence, but his toes ground down hard a few times. I understood what he meant. It was nothing more than making sure I could never return to the Shin family or torturing me. I might as well just kill myself first. I just lay flat on the ground, not caring anymore. Either kill me or give me a knife and I'll do it myself. Seeing me lying there like that, Daniel let out a sinister laugh. Want to die? Fine. Someone send a knife to our young master Shin. No one here dared to disobey him, and a group of people scurried around looking for a knife. and I slowly got up from the ground. If only I had succeeded in jumping off the building at the beginning. I wouldn't have to do it myself. It's all Andrew's fault. When I thought of Andrew, my mind began to wander. Well, now that I'm going to die on the territory of the Shin family, it won't involve Andrew. From now on, he won't have to worry about me being a burden to him anymore. It's so good, so good. I don't know how much time had passed. I felt that the place on my ear that was still bleeding just now had started to scab. Daniel kept sneering at me during this period. However, I was in a daze, thinking about Andrew all the time and didn't listen to a single word. Until someone tremblingly brought a knife. Daniel smiled and motioned to me. Please. I picked up the knife and only sighed in my heart. In the next life, don't let me be a vicious villain. If I have to be one, please don't let me be such a miserable vicious villain, okay? What kind of villain is as miserable as me? The knife wasn't very sharp, but with some effort it drew blood. Daniel wore a sarcastic expression from beginning to end, standing there with his arms folded, watching me. It hurt so much, but I should just go all out. Otherwise, the pain would only last longer. Just as I was about to go all out, suddenly a watch hit the hand holding the knife. The watch was very heavy and it made me loosen the knife immediately. Oliver, dare you try to die? Andrew walked towards me in a hurry. Behind him, a group of people in white coats followed closely. Andrew came over, but his outstretched hands seemed afraid to touch me. Who allowed you to die? Does it hurt? Somehow, even though I had just mustered the courage to die. But when he asked me if it hurt, I felt extremely wronged. The wounds that had been ignored before began to cause pain again. It hurt so much. He didn't stay by my side for long before giving his place to the doctor. After standing up, Andrew almost without hesitation punched Daniel in the face. You who claimed to be his elder brother just watched him try to kill himself like this. Daniel was almost knocked to the ground, but he still forced a smile and bowed to Andrew. Mr. Andrew, are you misunderstanding? My younger brother is just like this. At home, he always wants to kill himself at every turn. But none of them are real. You can rest assured. Andrew was so angry that he laughed instead and imitated Daniel's tone in a sarcastic way. Can I rest assured? Oliver has never tried to kill himself once during the days he's been with me, not even a single hair has fallen out. But he's only been with you for a few minutes and he's desperate to die with blood all over his face. How can you make me rest assured? As if he didn't want to see Daniel's face anymore, Andrew suppressed his anger and looked at me again. Suddenly, Andrew blurted out and asked, "What's wrong with your ear?" It should be caused by being forcefully torn. Who did it? Andrew looked straight at me and his voice was so calm that the sentence didn't seem like a question but a statement. I looked up at him with tears welling up in my eyes, but I couldn't say a word. A child who was used to keeping his mouth shut when being beaten won't tell on others. Andrew took a deep breath and nodded. Don't say it. I know. He turned his head away and his voice trembled slightly with anger. Daniel, the Shin family, you're really something. Although it wasn't a particularly serious wound, Andrew still forced me to stay in the hospital for a full month to recuperate. By the time I was discharged from the hospital, I had gained weight all over. After getting in the car, Andrew pinched a piece of the soft flesh on my belly. Oliver, why can't you gain weight? I rubbed my increasingly plump cheeks in distress and muttered discontentedly, isn't this fat? I've gained 10 caddies. Andrew took my hand down and affectionately kissed the side of my face. You're not fat, not at all. Strangely enough, ever since we left the Shin family's territory that day, Andrew has never said a single harsh word to me. If I'm not dreaming, Andrew is almost indulging me now. And I'm becoming increasingly anxious because in the plot, there was indeed a period when Andrew and I got along quite well. At that time, I hadn't completely turned evil and he wasn't a heartless person either. Later, because the Shin family was dissatisfied with the meager benefits I brought, they forced me into the bed of the protagonist, who is Andrew's younger brother. It seems that Andrew is an overly shrewd and rational businessman. Even his lover can't make him cut off his own flesh. Since the elder brother won't do, then let's switch to the younger brother. That Leo is different. A hot-headed young man is the easiest to manipulate. However, in the original plot, I was caught red-handed by Andrew just as the people from the Shin family sent me to Leo's bed. Even so, Andrew just gave me a sum of money and kicked me out. After being kicked out, the Shin family wouldn't tolerate me either. I really became a homeless dog. So in the end, I took that sum of money and embarked on a path of no return. Hiring, framing others, I gradually became the kind of person I hated the most. Just thinking about my hideous face and Andrew's disgusted expression in the future makes me shiver all over. I couldn't help but grab the sleeve of the person beside me. What's wrong? Andrew turned to look at me, his eyes filled with gentle warmth. The words I wanted to say got stuck in my throat, and I couldn't utter a single word. Originally, I wanted to ask him, if I become extremely bad in the future, so bad that I'm unrecognizable, will you still be so nice to me? But now I don't want to ask. Since there's a half chance that the result will disappoint me, I'll just cherish this moment. It's enough that someone wishes me eternal happiness. Andrew took my hand and kneaded it. Why are your hands so cold? Did you have any sequelae? I smiled helplessly at him. I just had my ear injured and my neck cut. I'm not sick. How could there be any sequelae? Andrew pouted and still covered my hand as he walked me into the house after getting out of the car. Brother. I was originally only focused on Andrew, but I was brought back to my senses by this call of brother. Leo, why are you here? My face turned deathly pale all of a sudden, and I subconsciously withdrew my hand that was still in Andrew's palm. Andrew looked at me in confusion, and I forced myself to make an excuse. I'm not feeling well. I'll go in first. Running away is both shameful and useless. Leo finally stood in front of me. Are you that Oliver? This doesn't seem right. Before I was tied to Leo's bed, we clearly had no communication at all. Even if he had seen me before, he only regarded me as his brother's unimportant lover and never bothered to look at me more than once. Yes, I am. Leo looked at me with great interest. I heard that my brother has started to target the Shin family because of someone recently. Do you know about this? My hands started to tremble and I shook my head repeatedly. Leo clicked his tongue in disgust when he saw me looking so pathetic. I haven't even said anything yet. Why are you so scared? He doesn't know that when I see him, what actually comes to my mind is the scene where he kicked my leg bone broken and bent my fingers backward. I tried hard to control the fear welling up from the bottom of my heart and pinched my palm hard. It doesn't matter if you don't know. I'm telling you now. This is the first time my brother has targeted a company because of someone. I don't care what relationship you have with the Shin family, but I'm warning you, if you dare to use my brother. Leo got closer and closer as he spoke, and finally whispered in my ear. I'll let you experience what it's like to have all your limbs broken and live a life worse than death. My pupils dilated suddenly, and I trembled all over like a sieve, as if I had really gone back to that scene. Don't hit me. Can I kill myself? I'll kill myself. Please, I'm really afraid of pain. Let me do it myself, okay? The me in my mind began to repeat these words incoherently, and the me in reality began to panic and be at a loss. Oliver, what's wrong with you? Andrew finally appeared and semi-forcibly pulled me, who was staggering around, into his arms. I pinched my own mouth and didn't dare to make a sound. Leo, what did you do? Why did he suddenly become like this? Andrew's voice became stern with obvious anger. Leo thought he was innocent and at the same time thought I was pretending. I didn't do anything. Brother, how can you be deceived by his such poor acting? Don't forget that he was forced on us by the Shin family and he's still a low-quality Omega. You shut up. Andrew gently patted my back to help me calm down and soothe my stress reaction. After I calmed down a bit, Andrew turned to Leo, who was full of grievances, and scolded in a low voice. He was brought back by me. The person I've painstakingly protected and nursed back to health has developed problems because of your unfounded prejudice. Leo, are you doing this for my good or deliberately provoking me? Probably because he had never heard his brother scold him so severely. Leo also became at a loss. No, are you serious, brother? But get out. Don't let me see you until you learn some manners. After Leo glared at me viciously, he stormed out. Andrew hugged me and kept saying sorry over and over again. Sorry for what? Andrew? Sorry that your brother hates me, this parasite? Sorry that you once ended my life with your own hands? Or sorry that we will eventually become like in the book, drifting apart? Andrew, will you also want to kill me? Suddenly, like a madman, I grabbed Andrew's collar and interrogated him desperately as if grabbing the last straw. But actually, my hands were shaking terribly. Andrew's motion to comfort me paused noticeably, and then he gently pressed his forehead against my cheek. No, this time, I'm here to love you. After that day, Andrew became very strange. He still treated me well, but it seemed that he no longer regarded me as his lover. He took me to his company for an internship and let me start learning from scratch. But I was clumsy and could only do trivial things like serving tea and water well. My supervisor was very headache-stricken because of me, but didn't dare to tell Andrew. Fortunately, I still had a conscience and voluntarily confessed to Andrew myself. Don't let me cause more trouble. Everyone in your company does mental work and I can't do it. Andrew seemed very angry after hearing this and scolded me seriously. How do you know you can't learn if you don't study hard? Oliver, are you going to give up so easily? Don't you want to improve your abilities and take revenge on those people yourself? Giving a man a fish feeds him for a day, teaching him to fish feeds him for a lifetime. I can't protect you comprehensively forever. Don't you know how dangerous it would be if I were a bit careless? I knew his good intentions, but I only got a worthless high school diploma this year. I really can't do the jobs that top students do. High school? Wait a minute. How old are you? I'm 21. Then why? No one cared whether I went to school or not, so I started primary school 3 years late. Moreover, I'm just an inferior Omega and not a proper member of the Shin family. They don't want a child with impure blood to achieve much, so I didn't have a chance to go to a good school. Besides, I lived and ate in the Shin family and had to do odd jobs to pay for it. One thing led to another. That's how it is. I rubbed my fingers and smiled at Andrew a bit nervously. It's not that I don't want to make a success of myself and soar to great heights. It's just that in my 21 years, having enough to eat and wear and being free from injuries were already luxuries. When one has to struggle just to survive, what's the point of talking about dreams? Andrew frowned slightly, obviously a bit surprised. Then what about your biological mother? Did she just leave you in the Shin family and ignore you completely? No, she didn't. My mother loves me very much. I pursed my lips and both my mouth and heart felt dry. She should have loved me very much because she suffered so much to give birth to me. However, I'm sorry for her. She passed away due to massive bleeding during my birth. Andrew closed his eyes as if overwhelmed. He simply replied, "Got it. You can go out." His voice was slightly hoarse. I knew he was blaming himself. So I smiled and comforted him. It's okay. Anyway, it's all in the past, isn't it? Look at me now. I'm fine and I've even gained a few pounds. Andrew looked at me, somewhat helpless. You. Forget it. Come here and give me a hug. Although he said for me to go to him, actually he walked towards me on his own initiative. Oliver, let me raise you from the very beginning, okay? Since he said he would raise me from the start, he really did it. I was on the verge of tears while doing the first grade primary school test papers. For a moment, I didn't know where to start complaining. Fortunately, the progress of the primary school tests was fast. I successfully advanced to junior high school within a few hours. Just when I was deeply engrossed in my studies, the Shin family started to make a lot of small moves. They either sent threatening messages to me or stuffed new Omegas to Andrew. Actually, these were nothing. The most serious thing was that they even invited Andrew's alpha father. That day, Andrew locked me in the room and confronted that authoritative alpha alone. Andrew, I'm very disappointed. I originally thought you were a rational, calm, and even perfect successor. But what are you doing now? For the sake of an Omega, you're willing to suffer losses and attack a group that can bring you benefits. You've also had conflicts with your younger brother because of him. I'm sorry, father, but I owe him too much. I have to pay it back. You owe him? It was he who shamelessly climbed into your bed, hoping to rise to prominence overnight. It was he who bewitched you to act recklessly with the company. Why should he blame his misfortunes on you? I must repay him, Datu. You owe him? It was he who was shameless enough to climb into your bed in a vain attempt to rise to prominence overnight. It was he who bewitched you into recklessly using the company for his own ends. How dare he blame his misfortunes on you? Andrew, you are a prodigy with a bright future ahead. How can you let such a person block your path? The older alpha's voice was filled with immense anger and disappointment, and the other young alpha remained unmoved. Father, please keep your voice down. Don't let him hear it or he'll start acting like he wants to kill himself again. It always takes me a lot of effort to comfort him. Also, you can't use the word person like that to describe him. He's only 21 years old and he should also have boundless prospects and a bright future. You're crazy. My most proud son has actually fallen for a ridiculous Omega. Andrew was silent for a while, then whispered something. I couldn't hear clearly even when I pressed myself against the door. I don't know how long it took, but the voice of the older alpha disappeared. Suddenly, the door of the room was fully opened. I didn't have time to dodge and fell forward onto Andrew. So eager to throw yourself into my arms? I looked up and Andrew was looking at me with a faint smile. Obviously, this was an affectionate joke, not the kind of disgust described in the book. Embarrassed, I straightened up and scratched my head, asking him, well, what did you talk about with your uncle? It's nothing. Andrew casually stroked my head, clearly not wanting to say more. However, I became even more curious but didn't want to force him to tell me. Lately, God has been kind to me. Just when I was dozing off, someone brought me a pillow. I sat across from Andrew's father, nervously wiping the sweat from my palms. I never thought that one day I would sit at the same table with an illegitimate child who can't be put on the table and a low-quality omega. I became extremely nervous and fumbled around while sitting. Then, should I kneel on the ground? The alpha remained calm, only giving me a disdainful glance when sipping his tea. I gave an awkward smile. I'm just joking. I know you're actually a father with a cold exterior but a warm heart and great wisdom. You won't really do that, right? The older alpha still ignored me and just sipped his tea leisurely. I felt so uncomfortable sitting there that I couldn't help but stand up. If you have nothing else to say, I'll go back first. I haven't finished my test papers yet. The alpha finally spoke. Don't you want to know what kind of promise Andrew made to me for your sake? No, I don't want to know. Then I'll leave first. I greeted him with what I thought was a good-mannered attitude. However, the next second I was pushed back onto the chair by several strong men. The alpha put down his teacup heavily and let out a snort full of 3 parts disdain, 4 parts coldness, and 5 parts anger from his nostrils. Don't you feel grateful for what he's done for you at all? Of course, I'm grateful. But Andrew taught me that if someone tries to tempt me with unknown information, I must bravely say no because then the other person can't help but tell me on their own. He even made a solemn pledge to me for your sake, but you don't seem to care about him at all? A solemn pledge? Yes. My outstanding and top-notch son has staked all his shares for you. If he can't acquire the Shin family, he'll voluntarily withdraw from the company. The alpha's voice became agitated. Every word reveals incomprehension. I remained silent, allowing the alpha's gaze upon me to turn cold. If my son really fails because of you, Oliver, you know I won't tolerate you anymore then. Father, what are you talking about? Andrew suddenly appeared from somewhere and stood beside me at this moment. The young alpha stood his ground, arguing with the older alpha with a disapproving look. Finally, he looked at me worriedly. Maybe he was afraid that I would have the idea of committing again. But Andrew, do you know? Once a person tastes a bit of happiness, they can't simply choose life or death at will. I stood up and stood side by side with Andrew. I won't let him fail. Even if I have to stake my life, I'll make him win. The older alpha obviously thought I was just talking big and disdainfully turned his head away. And Andrew took my hand and held it tightly. This time, I not only want to live, but also live well. Starting from learning high school knowledge, I finally felt the urgent pressure. Every day, I either anxiously chew on my pen or irritably tug at my hair. Andrew noticed that I was under a lot of pressure and cooked milk and made all kinds of delicious food for me every day. Finally, I successfully became a senior 3 student and gained another 5 caddies. At night, I angrily pinned Andrew down on the bed and threw a tantrum. Don't fatten me up anymore. Believe it or not, I'll crush you. Andrew lay in bed, leisurely smiling with his hands behind his head, showing no awareness of being threatened at all. It's good to be a bit fatter. You look much healthier. Only your enemies would want you to be frail. And I. He reached out his hand and poked my belly. I just want to fatten you up into a little pig. I pretended to be angry and pounded his belly. Who are you calling a little pig? We hugged and played around. Finally, I, being so useless, released my pheromones first. But Andrew, who was overly reliable, just took a light sniff. Oliver, your pheromones smell much stronger. Look, I've taken such good care of you. From now on, no one will ever say that our Oliver is an inferior omega. Our classmate Oliver is clearly the sweetest and most fragrant omega. What are you talking about? I'm the strongest and smartest omega, okay? Who cares if I'm sweet or not? I pretended to be disgusted with him, but in fact, the corners of my mouth were already raised high. Andrew nodded cheerfully following my words. Right, everything about our classmate Oliver is the best. I also looked at him with a smile, but suddenly, for some reason, my eyes welled up with tears. I bent down and lay on his chest, trying hard to hold back my tears. Andrew, why are you so good to me? Because you're Oliver. No, the atmosphere was too emotional. I was really about to cry. I tried to make a joke to ease the situation. No, I don't believe it. You must be after something from me. Say, what do you want? Let me think about it. Andrew laughed, and the resonance in his chest was transmitted to me. At this moment, I felt that our flesh and blood had merged together. What do I want? Let me think. I'll give you power and money, and then I want you to still choose to love me when you have everything. Clearly, I was asking what he wanted, but his every answer was about giving. Now, my tear glands really couldn't hold back. I didn't cry when I was beaten. I didn't cry when I learned that my life would be miserable. I didn't cry when I was at the end of my rope and determined to die. And now, because of the tangible happiness, I couldn't stop crying. Andrew stroked the back of my head and patiently comforted me again and again. Finally, after crying enough and getting tired, Andrew joked with me with a smile. "Classmate Oliver, you're so greedy for me. Your saliva has soaked me through." I broke into a smile through my tears and took a bite of his pectoral muscle. "Yes, I'm just greedy. I want to eat braised Andrew." Andrew looked at me with a half-smile and said something cryptic. "Who'll do the cooking is still up in the air. What a sullen old fox." Although I had the upper hand verbally, Andrew didn't really do anything to me. After all, I'm still a student now and I have a heavy academic workload. Andrew pulled some strings for me and I'll take the college entrance examination again this year. This time, when entering the exam hall, my state of mind was no longer muddled but full of ambition. After walking out of the college entrance examination hall, there were many parents waiting outside. They were waiting for the future of their families and the children they had raised with love. I skipped out and patted a figure that looked very young and tall. "Sir, who are you waiting for?" "I'm waiting for my lover." "Oh, what's your lover's name?" "Maybe I know him." "My lover is called Oliver. I exaggeratedly covered my mouth, but there was only a smile in my eyes. "What a coincidence. I'm called Oliver. Andrew looked at my mischievousness indulgently and cooperated. "Really? Then be my lover." I threw myself into his arms and laughed heartily. "Okay, then let's be lovers." On the day I received the admission notice from a top-tier university, many members of the Shin family were imprisoned for multiple crimes such as commercial crimes and criminal crimes, and Daniel was among them. I applied to visit him. It wasn't to show off, but just to make a complete farewell to the past. Daniel glared at me angrily through the glass. "Oliver, aren't you just in a relationship with Andrew? Just wait. When I get out, I'll definitely kill you." The more he spoke, the more excited he became, as if he wished he could break the glass in front of him and come to bite me. And I sat there calmly, indifferently watching his hysterical appearance. "I'm waiting, Daniel. I'll wait for you to get out and then I'll send you back in with my own hands." I looked directly at him without any evasion, looking at the dismal first 20-odd years of my life. "Daniel, contrary to your wishes, I'll keep living desperately without reservation. I'll accompany you no matter what you want to do. Even if it's until death, I won't take a step back again." Daniel looked at me in disbelief and then staggered back a few steps. "No, you're not Oliver. You're not that coward. Who are you? Where's Oliver?" I no longer paid attention to his madness, got up and mouthed to him through the glass that Oliver is dead. He died in every desperate moment and was reborn in every moment of hope, constantly breaking and repairing. Now, I'm neither the vicious villain Oliver nor the poor little Oliver. I'm Oliver, 21 years old, with boundless prospects and a bright future. After walking out of the prison visiting area, Andrew was standing by the car waiting for me. Seeing me come out, he didn't ask me a lot of questions. He just smiled and asked me, "Are you hungry? Let's go for a meal." "Yes, let's go for a meal, fall in love, and live bravely. As long as we haven't given up, life is still an unfinished story full of hope." Extra, Andrew, I'm Andrew, a plot maintainer with self-awareness but no independent activity. My task is to play the novel character well and promote the plot development until the end. But recently, there's a small world that gives me a huge headache. This is the first small world with a romantic plot that I've taken over. I don't know if it's because I'm inexperienced or what, but this world has been reset over a dozen times. Every time, the world is judged to collapse and reset when the villain is about to leave the scene. And this time, I finally waited for something different. That villain who always messes things up didn't say the lines as the plot dictated. Instead, he stood on the window. However, the villain can't die so early. I saved him, carefully avoiding his early death, which would ruin the plot. At the same time, I secretly reminded him, not wanting him to follow the plot anymore. It's very contradictory, isn't it? Logically speaking, I should have taken measures to ensure the normal development of the plot. But whenever I see him smiling, I can't help thinking, how wonderful it would be if he could always smile. This is bad. I'm getting more and more immersed in the feeling of being by his side without following the rules. It seems that by his side, I'm no longer the male supporting character or the plot maintainer. I'm just Andrew. After realizing that I might have fallen in love with him, I felt scared for the first time, because I've pronounced the end of his life so many times. The more I like him, the more scared I am. It seems that I can never repay what I owe him. But fortunately, the plot is getting more and more off track due to his abnormality, and the world hasn't been reset. Suddenly, an infinite hope ignited in my heart. Maybe this time what I can do is not to kill him, but to fall in love with him. Maybe this time we can be true lovers. Extra. From God's perspective, Andrew took a nosedive into the emotional line on his first encounter. It's a pity that he and Oliver only had a very short time of being in love. Bound by the role, he could only watch helplessly as his own indifference and the harm from others pushed his lover step by step to the opposite side of himself. Why does the world collapse and reset every time Oliver is thrown into the sea? It's not that the plot has collapsed, but that he, Andrew, has collapsed. Every time the plot is reset, Andrew's memory of emotions is erased, but he still stubbornly falls in love with Oliver again and again. The plot has been reset too many times, and finally there was a flaw. The source of all problems, Oliver, has awakened. Since then, the original predestination has been completely broken. The story belonging to Oliver and Andrew starts to be rewritten.